Jungkook was left visibly stunned, and the audience gripped in collective confusion when Jimin, who had been spotted earlier in the night in the VIP section at Jin's Amsterdam solo concert, abruptly vanished without a trace midway through the performance. The disappearance was as swift as it was inexplicable, and for many inside the Ziggo Dome, the incident overshadowed even the highly anticipated setlist. What happened to Jimin? Why did one of BTS's most elusive members vanish in the middle of an event already charged with emotion and history? The evening began with nothing to suggest such an extraordinary twist. 17,000 fans filled the Amsterdam venue, their excitement peaking as the house lights dimmed and the first chords of Jin's opening number began to reverberate. But before the song could settle into its rhythm, a ripple of disbelief spread across the arena. In the low glow of the VIP section, Jimin was unmistakably present. Dressed in a sharply tailored black coat, his expression composed, his very presence enough to ignite a frenzy across social media within minutes. The sight of Jimin in Amsterdam was already enough to send the army into overdrive. Theories began circulating instantly. Was he here for a planned collaboration? A surprise stage appearance? Or simply to support Jin quietly from the shadows? No one could have predicted that the bigger shock was yet to come. As Jin's set progressed, cameras intermittently caught glimpses of Jimin leaning forward in his seat, clapping along, or mouthing lyrics that only devoted fans could recognize. At one point, Jin appeared to acknowledge him directly, sending a subtle wave toward the VIP section during an emotional ballad. The interaction drew a rare, unguarded smile from Jimin, a moment instantly immortalized in thousands of blurry fan photos, but the mood shifted dramatically just over halfway through the concert. Observers closest to the VIP area reported a sudden tightening of security. Without any obvious commotion, several guards moved into position, partially blocking the view of Jimin's seat. Moments later, when the fans tried to glance past the line of security, the seat was empty.
No unexplained. No explanation.
Jimin was simply gone. Panic is not a word often used to describe an audience at a K-pop concert, but in this case, it was the only accurate term. Twitter feeds exploded with real-time updates. Some posts speculated about a medical emergency, others about a pre-planned backstage surprise. Several attendees swore they saw him escorted swiftly toward a rear exit, his head bowed, flanked by staff members. Others insisted there had been no such exit, that he had slipped away into an internal corridor that bypassed the main arena entirely. By the time Jin reached his encore, the disappearance had overtaken the concert as the night's main talking point. Fans began scanning every corner of the stage in hopes that Jimin might reappear for a final bow, perhaps even in a surprise duet. But the lights fell, the confetti dropped, and Jin took his final bow alone. The VIP seat where Jimin had sat earlier remained conspicuously vacant. Outside the Ziggo Dome, Amsterdam's cool night air carried an unusual tension. Groups of fans gathered in clusters, replaying shaky phone footage, pausing frames to search for clues. One video, filmed from a balcony level, seemed to show Jimin standing abruptly before being guided away by a figure in dark clothing. Another angle suggested that his exit coincided precisely with the moment Jin moved into a high-energy dance number, a possible distraction. Within an hour, the mystery had overtaken global trending lists. Whereas Jimin disappeared climbed alongside tags related to the concert itself. TikTok flooded with theories, some claiming that he was rushed to a nearby hotel, others suggesting that he had been spotted at Schiphol Airport boarding a late-night flight. A handful of eyewitnesses swore he was seen re-entering the venue through a side door nearly 40 minutes later, though no photos emerged to support this. Adding to the intrigue, neither Jimin's personal accounts nor any BTS-affiliated platforms issued a single update. No confirmation of his departure, no backstage photo, no explanation. This silence only deepened the speculation. Was it a deliberate media strategy? A personal emergency? Or something connected to an unannounced project? Even members of the press who had been invited to cover Jin's concert found themselves caught in the uncertainty. Reporters attempting to approach staff at the venue received only curt replies and polite refusals to comment. One European entertainment journalist described the atmosphere as an unusual blend of exhilaration and apprehension. Fans knew they had witnessed something significant, but no one knew what it meant. By the following morning, coverage of Jin's flawless performance was almost inseparable from the narrative of Jimin's sudden absence. International outlets ran headlines framing the event as the disappearance that stole the show, pairing photographs of Jimin's initial arrival with empty seat shots taken later in the evening. In Seoul, Korean entertainment forums lit up with threads dissecting every known moment of the concert, from the way security positioned themselves to the exact timestamp of his last sighting. For the fans who were in the arena, the night now lives in memory as more than just a concert. It became a living mystery, a moment suspended between reality and speculation. Some described it as exhilarating. Others found it unsettling. All agreed on one point: they had never experienced anything like it. The unanswered questions remain. Did Jimin leave for personal reasons? Was it a prelude to a surprise that simply didn't happen? Or was it something so private that it will never be publicly explained? For now, the mystery stands, and so does the collective memory of a night when the music paused for just a moment, and one of the world's most watched artists seemed to vanish into thin air. Several hours after the incident, what had started as confusion had evolved into a full-scale investigation by the global fan community. On social media platforms, frame-by-frame video analysis became the norm, with ARMY members comparing angles from different parts of the arena. Some fans claimed to have spotted a discreet hand signal between Jimin and a man in a headset seconds before he stood up. Others pointed to the subtle reaction of certain stage crew members, suggesting they had been informed in advance of his departure. In typical BTS fashion, the details were so carefully concealed that even the most determined fan detectives could only build theories rather than conclusions. Amsterdam locals reported an unusual level of heightened security in the streets surrounding the Ziggo Dome both before and after the show. A few taxi drivers posted anonymously that they had been told to wait near a private service entrance, only to receive last-minute instructions to leave without picking up any passenger. Inside the venue, those who had been seated closest to Jimin's section began recounting their experiences in detail. Many remembered how the atmosphere shifted in a matter of seconds. The crowd's attention pulled away from the stage, whispers becoming frantic questions, eyes darting between the performance and the now-guarded aisle. One fan described the moment vividly. It felt like the entire section froze. You could see people realizing he wasn't there anymore, but the music kept going, and Jin didn't miss a single note. It was surreal. Theories continued to spread rapidly, some bordering on the implausible. A rumor began circulating that Jimin might have been rehearsing for a surprise joint stage at Jin's next tour stop, explaining his discreet exit. Another suggested he was meeting with an undisclosed guest backstage, possibly a collaborator, whose presence would only be revealed at a later date. A third theory, the most controversial, speculated that his sudden departure was due to security concerns after certain individuals breached the outer perimeter of the VIP area. None of these claims were confirmed, but each found its own community of believers online. In the hours that followed, the story began to take on a global dimension. News outlets in South Korea, Japan, the UK, and the US ran detailed breakdowns of the night, complete with timestamps, crowd reactions, and eyewitness accounts. Entertainment analysts debated whether the silence from Jimin's side was intentional, a strategy to build anticipation for an upcoming announcement. Industry insiders noted that such carefully timed public appearances, especially when followed by a rapid disappearance, often precede significant reveals in the entertainment world. By mid-afternoon the next day, the Ziggo Dome staff confirmed only that all guests left the venue safely, refusing to name individuals or provide specific timelines. That single statement did little to calm speculation. Fans began cross-referencing flight schedules from Schiphol Airport, noting that a private charter had departed for Paris less than 2 hours after the concert ended. Whether or not Jimin was on board remained unknown, but the possibility fueled yet another wave of theories. The incident also sparked reflection among ARMY members about the nature of celebrity visibility. Many fans expressed admiration for Jimin's ability to move undetected for so long before the show and to vanish with equal efficiency. Others voiced frustration at the lack of transparency, feeling that the mystery overshadowed the emotional significance of Jin's performance. Yet for most, the uncertainty only deepened their sense of connection, a shared moment of suspense that no one outside the arena could fully understand. Cultural commentators have since noted that such events often become part of a group's legacy, remembered not for their clarity, but for the emotions they stir. Just as past BTS concerts have been marked by surprise reunions, unexpected stage appearances, and unscripted moments of vulnerability, this night in Amsterdam may go down as one of the most talked about in recent memory, not because of what was seen, but because of what was not. Even now, the questions remain unanswered. There is no confirmation of Jimin's next location, no hint of whether his disappearance was planned or reactive. The only certainty is that the night's narrative shifted in an instant, from a historic solo stage to a global guessing game. The story has already transcended the boundaries of a single concert, becoming a shared mystery for millions of fans worldwide. And until new information emerges, the image of that empty VIP seat will remain etched in the minds of those who were there, a silent symbol of a night when history was made, and then, just as suddenly, rewritten. Under the cold scrutiny of public attention, the incident at Jin's Amsterdam concert involving Jimin's abrupt and unexplained disappearance continues to provoke both fascination and suspicion. It is undeniable that the visual narrative, Jimin's calculated arrival in the VIP section, his interactions captured in fleeting glimpses, and his sudden absence, without formal acknowledgement, is compelling. Yet, beyond the immediate emotional reaction, the central question remains: do we accept this sequence of events as an authentic, unplanned occurrence, or should we instead regard it as a meticulously orchestrated act designed to manipulate audience perception and dominate global headlines? The primary difficulty in addressing this question lies in the very nature of the information available. Every account, every frame of video, every so-called eyewitness testimony originates from social media platforms, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and from a scattering of online entertainment media outlets. None of these sources, regardless of their apparent credibility or reach, constitute verified, primary confirmation. If this realization causes hesitation, it should. For in the absence of direct verification, how can one reasonably distinguish between an unfiltered account of reality and an intentionally manufactured illusion? It is essential to examine the behavioral patterns surrounding the incident. Why did Jimin's arrival remain concealed until the moment of the concert's commencement? Why was his departure executed with such precision, under the apparent cover of intensified security? Should we interpret this as evidence of an unanticipated disruption, or is it more plausibly a pre-planned maneuver intended to generate exactly the kind of speculation we are engaging in now? If the latter is true, then what purpose does such a maneuver serve, and who benefits from it? The role of audience psychology in such events must also be considered. Public fascination thrives on sudden disruptions to expected narratives. A concert by Jimin, already a significant cultural event, instantly transforms into a global media spectacle when infused with an element of mystery. Was this transformation a coincidence born of unforeseen circumstances, or an engineered device to ensure the concert would achieve unprecedented virality? And if it was engineered, does that diminish the legitimacy of the audience's emotional experience, or does it merely reveal the entertainment industry's mastery of its own tools? An analysis of the timing is equally instructive. The disappearance occurred precisely at a midpoint in the concert, a moment when audience attention is traditionally at risk of waning. Was the exit coincidental, or was it strategically placed to re-energize the crowd, ensuring a second wave of engagement that would last until the final note? Further, if this was truly a private matter, why has there been no official comment designed to defuse the growing speculation? The refusal to clarify may be an act of necessity, or it may be an act of calculated omission. We must also confront the reliability of eyewitness testimony in such environments. Amid deafening music, flashing lights, and the heightened emotional state of thousands of fans, can any individual truly claim to have observed the sequence of events with complete accuracy? Is it possible that some reports, such as sightings of Jimin at Schiphol Airport or re-entering the venue, are merely projections of expectation, moments of visual misidentification amplified through repetition online? If so, how many of the details we accept as fact are, in truth, only artifacts of mass assumption? The mechanisms of virality further complicate the situation. Within minutes of the disappearance, the narrative had spread across dozens of countries, accumulating millions of views and engagements. This velocity of dissemination inherently erodes the possibility of careful fact-checking before belief takes hold. Are we, therefore, participants in the very machine that manufactures sensationalism, perpetuating an event's perceived significance through our own willingness to share before we verify? If so, to what extent is our current discussion about Jimin grounded in reality, and to what extent is it the byproduct of collective digital reflex? One must also consider precedent. BTS as a collective and Jimin individually have participated in numerous surprise appearances, controlled media unveilings, and staged moments of public intrigue. Could this be another such instance, carefully crafted to deepen the mythology surrounding both the individual and the group? Or is this precisely the assumption that those involved wish us to make, a diversionary tactic designed to obscure a far more mundane truth? In light of these considerations, the most prudent course of action is skepticism. To embrace skepticism is not to reject the event outright, but to maintain intellectual discipline in the face of uncertainty. It is to acknowledge that information sourced from platforms optimized for engagement rather than verification demands rigorous scrutiny before it is granted the status of truth. If our only sources are grainy videos, fragmented statements, and the cascading amplification of unverified claims, then what foundation do we truly have upon which to build our conclusions? And yet, there is the emotional dimension, the reality that for thousands in attendance, Jimin's appearance and subsequent absence were viscerally experienced in real time. Does the authenticity of that experience require the authenticity of the event's cause? Or can a moment be meaningful even if the circumstances surrounding it are later revealed to be contrived? In entertainment, where the boundary between reality and performance is often deliberately blurred, perhaps the very notion of authenticity is more complex than it appears. Thus, the essential questions remain unresolved. Did Jimin vanish for reasons entirely beyond his control, or was the disappearance itself the performance? Were we witnesses to an unplanned disruption, or participants in a carefully orchestrated illusion? More critically, in our own consumption of this story, have we sought truth, or have we sought only the thrill of mystery? As readers, observers, and global citizens in the age of instantaneous digital information, we must decide, will we accept this narrative at face value, or will we subject it to the same rigorous inquiry we demand of all unverified claims? Will we allow the seductive pull of sensationalism to dictate our understanding, or will we resist, insisting on evidence before belief? The answers to these questions will define not only our interpretation of this singular event, but also the broader standards by which we engage with all such events in the future. Now, the challenge is yours. Do you believe the disappearance of Jimin in Amsterdam was an undeniable fact, an unscripted moment that disrupted the night's intended course? Or do you suspect it was a deliberate construction, designed to command the world's attention precisely as it has done? If you choose the former, on what grounds do you rest your certainty? If you choose the latter, are you prepared to confront the implications of being complicit in the spread of a calculated illusion? In either case, the demand for critical thought remains absolute, and the call for discernment has never been more urgent.